somewhere there's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together and time to spare, time to learn, time to share. Someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
Rodrick, my gosh, it is so good to see you. Folks, I know I told you this in the introduction, but this is Rodrick Dixon, one of the most amazing tenors in the United States and in the world, not only because of his instrument, but he's just a really great guy. Gosh, what a treat for me. It's really a joy to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. It's a pleasure to be on with you, and thank you for inviting me. It's an invitation I truly treasure, and it's an honor. So thank you. It's just good to see you, man. Scott, you look fantastic.
You're very kind. Thank you. I was just telling folks in the intro to this that we got to tour together along with our friends Thomas Young and Victor Cook, and I look forward to maybe trying to reconnect with them as well. I miss you guys. So tell us, we have lots to talk about, and we want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world and what's going on with the arts and what people can do to help. But before we get to that, how are you? What's going on in your life? I know you have family and you're performing. What's been going on? It's been about 15 years.
Well, I have some great. Lots going on. Yeah. My oldest son, Dean, is actually married now, and his wife is a nurse practitioner, so she's on the front line. She had 5 cases that she's servicing now, those particular human beings, and she's taking care of a lot of people at the hospital. And my son is an electrician in the union, so he has to go to work every day. And my youngest son is Aaron Burr in the tour of Hamilton, and he's now in Toronto with the cast. And he's amazing. He has all my stuff and some stuff I don't have. And so excited about it. And our friend and I have been in producing, along with the Auditorium Theater, show called 200 Years now. And we just filmed a PBS special recently called Hallelujah Broadway. And we're working on a television special besides operatic and classical oratorial concertizing that we do with on the globe. As we speak, right, it's because of the current crisis in America and across the globe, and appropriately so. We're following the mandate and staying home and having a great time, but more importantly, focusing on our friends and family and our colleagues in the arts and making sure that they're healthy and they're doing well, and try to be as helpful as we can to them, depending on their needs. So we're okay. We're okay, and we're good.
Good. I'm glad everyone's safe and healthy. It sounds like that. That's wonderful. So you were just saying, working on things that were more classically oriented and operatic, but you've also done some musical theater, right? I mean, back in the day, because I was telling you while we were kind of setting this up, that we had opened our 75th season with Ragtime, which is part of your resume too, isn't it?
Yeah. I was in the original cast of Ragtime on Broadway. And started in Toronto, then I moved to Broadway. And then I was also in the cast of Showboat at the Auditorium Theater here in Chicago. And so those were my two professional forays into the crossover genre of Broadway musicals. And I'm from New York, so it was like, if you want to give me a Broadway credit, I'll do the show.
What was
I'm an opera guy,
Yeah, but the show that you and I toured with, you sang lots of different styles, and you sang them all beautifully. What was cool for us when we did Ragtime last fall is we rented the original Broadway costumes. So literally, they had your name still in the costume.
Yeah, with the big orange hat and the orange jacket, the belt. Oh my goodness, you're killing me, man!
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. You gotta give me a moment. Somebody have my swag on, bro.
Yeah. It's cool stuff. And just before we started talking here, we just watched on the broadcast your version of Somewhere, which was also, obviously from the musical theater world, just stunning, man, just so beautiful.
Thank you.
What a great instrument. So how you kind of talked a little bit about how this is all affecting you in terms of performances put on pause, and you've got a worry, I'm sure, about your daughter-in-law and your son and your other son. Is he in Toronto still? Is that where they're hunkered down?
It's hunkered down. As a matter of fact, I understand Lin-Manuel called the cast, and they were able to get on. I think it was Zoom the other day, and they talked, and I didn't get a chance to speak to them specifically about it, but I'm sure it was just a wellness check. Just let them know that they're thinking about them there in Toronto. The show was sold out.
Right.
People love the show, but at the same time, there was a question about whether Jared should come home for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but then there was a question of quarantining, coming in America for 14 days, and then it has to go across the goes next month or so. So they decided that it was best for the cast members to stay in Toronto, and he decided it was in his best interest to stay sequestered, quarantine himself, stay in his apartment, not go out as very much, get his groceries, and just hunker down and just be artistic, read, write, music, that kind of thing. And so we're concerned as parents, as we should be, but we'll be okay if he does the right things. And we know so far he's managed to keep himself inside.
Good.
Right. And Jared grew up with opera, symphony, music recordings. He was on the road with the Tenors, Cook, Dixon, and Young back in the early 2000 campaign.
Right.
So he was exposed, and so was Dean. They were exposed to a lot of theater, but more importantly, to a lot of art. And that's the key here. Not just theater, but art.
I love that.
So
very cool. So, gosh, I could talk to you for hours, but there are lots of guests waiting too. Tell me, why is this your passion? Why have you chosen this to make a life? Why is art important to you?
Why did I choose a living in art? Choose to make a living as a singer? Choose to make a living as an artist? I say all those things separately because they are separate decisions you have to make. In my particular case, that I was so gifted, I really didn't. I grew up in church. I played piano and
You were
organ.
an athlete too.
I was an athlete too. I was playing baseball. I played baseball for 15 years and ran track. So I was an athlete. I wanted to play baseball. The church and playing piano and organ from the time was always a constant in my life, 2 or 3 times a week. And most people know what that means. Prayer service on Wednesday night, Saturdays church choir rehearsals, and Sunday all day in church. So 3 days a week I was in church, and the other days I was in school, and in the afternoons I was playing baseball. And those were my constants. Now, as far as singing is concerned, I was a second soprano. I sang in the Brooklyn Boys Chorus when I was sixth grade, actually. My voice changed. Then I went to the High School of Music and Art for 4 years, graduated with my high school degree. But I was also studying piano in theory in the afternoons at the Harlem School of the Arts. And then I matriculated into Mannes College of Music. And then I ended up in Chicago at the Lyric Opera Center for American Artists. So my trajectory was based on my ability to always walk through the door and provide some kind of artistic rendering that they found acceptable enough to give me a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent some summers in Europe, in Italy and France. I studied, and then I was at the Opera House in Chicago, and then my career started, and then I ended up on Broadway. And then I was going back and forth between opera, classical music, and I was doing it all. But where the genesis of it started was in the church, because in my father's church service was an eclectic group of music. It was multi-faceted in terms of hymns, anthems, gospel music, contemporary gospel music. And because he played jazz, I grew up with jazz in my ears at the house. So I would hear Aretha Franklin and C.L. Franklin, her father, preach, and Aretha would sing. My father would play the anthems, and then he would have jazz ensembles at the house. So I grew up with this very eclectic crossover sensibility about art. And then I began to imitate my mother and father as a singer. My mother was an opera singer who had a big dramatic middle voice, and my father had a very high voice. So I'm an amalgamation of both. So when you put that together over a trajectory of life, projected to move forward in life, every time the doors open for me, I would just sing, ah, and people would say, you sit down, you're going to sing. So I didn't choose it. It chose me.
Wow.
And then I made a decision to be serious about it when they said, would you like to go to school for free? And I said, my mother and father don't have the means, but if you're going to give me the money to sing this stuff, I'll sing it.
Yeah.
And so it chose me, and I decided to show up. It was a combination of both.
We're all very lucky you did.
Yeah,
very lucky.
I'm making a living at it, and I'm happy, and it's the way in which I see the world, and I get to express it artistically, very seriously, authentic, with a sense of authenticity, and I try to do the work. I try to show up and try to say something,
Yeah, it's one of the things that I loved about working with you, was exactly that.
Yeah.
So, like you, our organization is, we're doing all we can to stay connected like this to our community, and planning ahead for our 76th season. We're in our 75th anniversary season right now, which is amazing. I've only been here for 2 years of it, but like everybody else, it's a challenge right at the moment. So the reason for doing this today is to share art with anybody that wants to watch, and also to help raise money, because that's what it takes to be able to share art on a larger scale. So if someone asked you, what would you say to someone to convince them that art is worthwhile and it's important? Why is art? Why should the arts be supported?
Well, when I think about your organization, 1945 was when it started.
Right.
And when I think about the years of service that it provided to the Augusta community, and kudos to the Augusta community for having the sensibility of maintaining that standard, making sure that art, Broadway musicals, Broadway plays, anything that has to deal with maybe classical music as well, even the foray into opera, your community has so much. And I just think that what you're doing now, on your 75th year anniversary, going into 76 years, is not only apropos to why money matters in that regard, but is also apropos to why we must consistently make sure that we have these artistic organizations like yourselves in play all the time. Take the current circumstances. I guarantee you, when we get through this as a country, the first places most people are going to go to, and when it comes to leaving their home, is to a space where they can congregate with their friends and loved ones, smile and laugh, and maybe touch each other again.
Yeah.
And those places will be church, synagogues, sports, and the arenas where art takes place.
Yeah.
And art has a very specific, important responsibility. It allows us to touch literature. It allows us to touch connecting to each other. It allows us to be emotional. It allows us to hear sound. It allows us to act. It allows us to give out the virtue of showing up. I remember Leontine Price talking about that energy that happens between the performer and the audience, that vibration that happens in that moment. Those emotional spaces are going to be attacked by a community because they're going to want that. And your organization has been doing it for 75 years,
Yeah.
feeding people with something more than just entertainment, but a vitality and an energy of truth and authenticity about being human. And in the artistic world, such as your organization, which has been providing for 75 years, that is why people not only should continue to give, but it's important to the vitality of your community because it was a big part and will continue to be a big part of how it expresses itself. How many people have come out of your community who are wonderful artists, who have gone on to have great careers? It's because of organizations like you who have fed them, who have given them opportunities. Children, time and time again, who are expanding into who they're becoming because they go pro. Money is important, but more important is the intent behind the giving. 75 years tells me that Augusta players
Agreed.
have been getting it right, and they've gotten the intent right, so the money will continue to go. That's why I'm on today, because I'm saying thank you for showing up, Augusta, and you will continue to show up because that's what matters more than anything else. Your intent and then your giving. Now I could preach, but the bottom line is I don't have to. The truth is 75-year tells me right then and there, 75-year tells me that the people of Augusta have always maintained a great sense of strength and courage to support their artistic endeavors through the Augusta players. And that's why I'm on. It's true, it's authentic, and it's brilliant. Thank you. Bravo.
I appreciate you so much. And thanks for saying that. And you definitely have some of your father in you.
Well, there's a saying that when we all have to make our untimely exit from this world, when people give, they have the capacity to give. You don't have to preach their sermon; they live it.
Yeah.
And the Augusta Players, as an organization, has been living their sermon.
Well, we're going to get to live a little bit more through another performance of yours. What are we going to see right now? It's what's the medley that's coming up?
Oh, the Dream Medley. It's a combination of Les Miserables, the Dream Medley, leading into the Impossible Dream. And a good friend of mine, Fred Nelson III, who's a composer and arranger here in Chicago, we got together and put this together. And let me say that the transition from the Dream Medley into the Impossible Dream, I'm going to say the text so people can see exactly where the emotion drives into the Impossible Dream. And it says something like, the tigers come at night, and their voices full of thunder. When they tear your hope apart, when they turn your dreams into shame. Dream the impossible dream. Fight the unbeatable foe. Bear the unbearable sorrow. Run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong. That's where the two songs meet, at that crux,
Mm-hmm.
where the dreams are turned into shame, and then they become like the Joseph dreams, the impossible dreams. And that, my friend, is what you're going to hear next.
Can't wait. I can't wait to share it all. We chatted when we were setting this all up about kind of where you tend to tour. So we're going to make sure we come see you when you're in our neighborhood again. And the next time I might be home in the Chicagoland area in late August. So might come knocking on your door and say hi. Thank you so much.
Please do. And we'll have some of the Chicago famous, that big old pizza they serve here in the Midwest. I'm in New York. I like to fold mine and have the grease run down the crepe paper in Manhattan. But they got that big old cake pizza. They call it deep dish. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But I'm still a New Yorker. You know.
Thank you so much, Rodrick. Thanks for spending the time. Thanks for catching up. And thanks for sharing your gift with all of us.
Bless you, sir. Bless you. All right.
It's Rodrick Dixon, everyone, an amazing human that happens to be an amazing tenor as well. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
I dreamed a dream in days gone by, when hope was high, life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid. Dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom to be paid, no song unsung, no wine untasted. But the tigers come at night, with their voices soft as thunder, as they tear your hope apart, as they turn your dreams to shame. Dream the impossible dream. Fight the unbeatable foe. Bear the unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightable wrong. To love pure and chaste from afar. To try when your arms are too weary. To reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right, without question or pause, to be willing to world would be better for this. That one man scorned and covered with scars.